Hey everyone, Cooper here, host of the fine podcast you're listening to. I just want to let you know that the episode you clicked on has a format that is very heavily inspired by a podcast called The Bookening. To be clear, our thoughts and opinions in this episode are our own, but the format is very similar to this podcast. I just wanted to give you a heads up and give credit where it is due. With that out of the way, enjoy the show. Coming up next, Booking It reads, Keeper of the Lost Cities. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Booking It. I'm, of course, your humble and eloquent host, Mr. Cooper Cobbs, and joining me today is my very good friend, Mr. Tanner Lewis.
Howdy, folks.
And my other very good friend, Mr. Isaiah Raetsky.
Hello.
And for the record, I do have other good friends, but these are two that are here
We're
with
just
me
better.
talking. Yeah, it's true. You got me.
'Tis facts.
Well, Isaiah just got back from a trip. He went to see a college, and he told me that he thought it was a nerd college, so he wasn't going to go. But then informed me that I would like it. So,
Well,
there's that.
that's not exactly what I said, but okay.
That's what your mom said.
Guys,
At least.
from an objective
is?
point of view, from an objective standpoint, that is exactly what Isaiah and Mrs. Raetsky said. Like, to the T.
That is not what I said. That's what my mom said.
Well, I'm going to
I
go
said
find out
that
for
I
myself.
don't want to go there because it's all about debate and stuff, and I don't like debate. But Cooper would love it because it's about debate.
Okay, sure. So debate and nerd are not synonymous?
Depends. Depends
Okay,
how
well-
much you're into debate.
Well, I'm going to visit the college next week, actually. So
Oh, nice.
that'll be fun. And
Ooh.
I'll see for myself.
What
anyway-
classes you?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. I think it was a history class, or maybe a journalism
Okay.
class. One of those two.
Nice.
Yeah.
The history one was good.
Good. Cool. Okay. Well, only one other note of business before we get started. Tanner cried watching the live-action Cinderella, and
'Tis
with that out of the
true.
way, we can.
Tis
move on.
true.
Okay. What do nerds cry? I mean, why?
We
is your-
tear up
your
at good
standard
movies,
insult a nerd?
Cooper.
I don't know.
My favorite thing is Tanner just
baby.
like grouping himself along with other people, or grouping me along with him and maybe he doesn't have a good reason to do so. Like, Tanner, you don't have the ability to roast the book we're talking about. I do. Okay, so stay on your own side
Wait.
over there, bud.
Wait, what?
What? I can...
No,
I,
but here's the
I
deal,
have
here's
an
the deal.
objective standpoint.
Yeah, it says the guy who like stayed up late reading the latest book
He's
on
got
his
a point,
Kindle that he
yeah.
pre-ordered and
That you
has read all the
pre-ordered 2
books.
months beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have the ability to
I have
to do this.
repented.
I've
Stand your
repented.
Are
I
you
guarantee you,
okay.
when the next book comes out, you're going to be pre-ordering that one
True
too.
facts. A couple
No,
of
I'm
recordings
not.
ago, didn't
Actually,
you
it-
and Isaiah, Tanner, like talk for like 5-10 minutes about the future of the series?
We did.
No? We did?
We did.
did.
You predicted the future of the book series.
He did.
Well,
We
tried
did.
To. You made a prediction. We don't know if it's true or not, though.
I did. I don't care
did.
anymore, Cooper. Honestly, I'm not even going to buy the next book. You guys can
Oh,
fact check me
wow.
on this. I will
Okay.
not buy the next
Here we
book.
go.
Okay.
We got
I
verifiable
will borrow
proof.
it from Isaiah after he is
Okay.
read
I'm not going to let you borrow it.
Okay. Well, we're kind of already in here, but let's just talk about it. So, Isaiah, why don't you go ahead and give us your baggage first, since you're the most positive in
Well,
the series.
My baggage. I think it was something like Becky was reading it, and I looked at it, and I was bored. I saw it on the shelf or whatever, like just after she finished the first one. I was like, huh, that looks interesting. So then I just read it. It's like 2 years
Mhm.
ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I liked it. I'll say this: it's not
Cool.
my favorite book series,
Yeah.
but it's good and entertaining. Not the best written though. Like it's not written the best,
Sure.
but it's still good and entertaining.
Okay, so you'd recommend that people read it if they have nothing else to read.
I mean, read Harry Potter first, but sure.
Okay. Well, Tanner, what about you?
My baggage.
Oh boy.
I have nothing good to read at this point in time in my life, and I am entirely bored. Me
Yeah.
sees my Amazon suggested reading, decides, Isaiah's talked about this book. I'm going to read it. Purchases book. Reads book. Proceeds to read entire series in an unhealthy amount of time.
I think it was like a
Pre-orders
week that he
next.
read the whole series.
To be fair, it was 2.5.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Reading, 8.5 books that are each about 700 pages in 2.5 weeks. Nice.
It was unhealthy, as I said. And then proceeding to read the final book, and once again, an unhealthy amount of time. And
let me propose a metaphor here.
Ooh.
A young kid, an innocent, blonde, young kid with a magic bookshelf, happens to
It was
be
a year and a
starving.
half ago, Cooper.
A year and a half ago. He's
Not even.
starving. And so he decides to go to the unhealthiest restaurant possible and gorges there for every meal for the next 2.5 weeks and unhealthily eats from the place because he's starving. And that's the metaphor for Tanner's reading of Keep of the Lost Cities right there.
Wow.
yes, it's great. I'm going to carry it further. He proceeds to puke out and regret every single moment that he spent reading it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow, okay. But he can't take back the fact that he did, so...
Yeah.
Exactly.
There we go.
So he's left with a sore stomach.
Okay,
The
well,
end.
my baggage then. Here's the deal. These people who are talking before me, or were
Hey.
talking before me, have been trying to convince me to read the series for a long time. I think Tanner just wanted someone else to puke with him, I guess. I don't know.
I don't
And
really know, 'cause I
Isaiah
thought he
and-
liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I don't think he decided that, I don't think he puked until a very long time after ingesting. But at any rate, Isaiah and Becky were both trying to convince me to read it. I think Tanner at this point...
More like I
was-
mentioned it and Becky was the one trying to convince
Okay, it's
you.
fair. That's fair.
Middle school girls are obsessed with this book. This is
Oh
just
my
a proven
gosh.
fact.
It's true. I will note on a mission trip I went on last year, several of the girls on the trip were indeed avid readers of the series. So yes, true. But I had always hesitated because I knew that if I read it, I would probably be something like Tanner, but probably a little less extreme. Like I would acknowledge that, okay, as Isaiah said, it's not the best written, but it's fairly entertaining. But I was trying to have self-control and restrict myself from engaging in such behavior because,
Smart.
to my knowledge, there's just better things to read personally. But
Jane Austen.
yeah, there is.
No,
exactly.
bro, what? Nah, what? Nah.
you can't deny.
You
Isaiah,
could have gone
that
to
Jane
anything. You
Austen
could have gone to
is
Lewis.
written better.
Hold
is
on.
written better.
You could have gone to C.S. Lewis. You could have gone to Tolkien, but you went to Jane Austen.
Dude, I'm reading Sense and Sensibility right now, and it is like a palate cleanser.
Good for you.
Man, I
Anyways,
don't think
besides
since
the point.
Gandalf versus Dumbledore have we had this serious of a disagreement on the podcast about Keeper of the Lost Cities, of all things. Okay, well, anyway. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. I was making the schedule for this year, having rejected the call to read Keeper of the Lost Cities for a good 2 years now. And I looked at the list that I had been typing up, and I'm like, there's a hole here. And it would be really fun to roast Keeper of the Lost Cities, for at least for me. I know Isaiah wouldn't do that, and I was like, you know what? I'll subject myself to the torture for the listeners, So I did, and that's kind of what happened, because I just read it a couple weeks ago. Fun fact, after this recording, I have to go return the book from the library because it's overdue, and because I did not buy the book by any means. So yeah, that was my baggage. And I kind of brought to the table low expectations, I'll be honest. And if I'm being honest, and I'll say this off the gate, we're kind of transitioning into opening thoughts, it met my expectations and it might have surpassed them a little bit. That's not saying much, but...
Because you had such low expectations.
Yeah, exactly. But it didn't go below those expectations. So I think that's a good thing, honestly. And while I was reading it, I think I talked about this maybe last episode, but... I think you weren't on that one, Isaiah, but I kind of said the fact that I forgot this kind of genre existed, like the in-between middle grade / young adult genre, Isaiah. Like,
yeah, I remember
the kind of
saying that.
Percy Jackson-ish genre. Like, they're kind of young enough to where, like, the 10, 11, 12-year-olds read the series, but they have enough, let's just say, kissing content to where the high schoolers are able to kind of enjoy, and the young adult market's kind of enjoying it. So it's kind of this in between. And I remember reading the first chapter, and I will admit, I think that the latter half of the book got better than the first half. Maybe because the first half seems so stereotypical with like Percy Jackson, with like another couple series. Yeah, like just the whole idea that this character is living amongst mortals, basically, and then they have undiscovered powers, and then a person from another species / race comes in and kidnaps them to a special place to train their abilities. Like that plot is like at this point so overused, especially in this genre. So I was kind of tired out of that, but I think it did get a little better towards the end of the novel. Just the fact that if you're decent at all at revealing hidden information, then you can have a kind of convincing plot. And so as tiring as the giant plot was, just the here and there overall broad story beats, it got better as it went along, simply because the author was at least somewhat decent at trying to have cliffhangers and reveal those things. So I'll give it that. I think it surpassed my expectations ever so slightly, but not without trying, for sure. So, okay, well, that's kind of my opening thoughts. Why don't Tanner, you go for next, so then Isaiah can bring some positivity at the very end of our opening thoughts.
I agree with Cooper's for the most part. When I first picked up this book, the series at least, I enjoyed it for the most part. Just because it was it had a relatively good plot. I didn't have very high expectations for it. Once again, I was merely starving for literature, period. Or just at least anything that was entertaining. So it was mildly entertaining for that reason, just because I had nothing good for a little while. Then, fast forward, and my thoughts about this book have changed, and I'm going to state why now. First of all, I wasted too much time on this series.
Actually, Tanner, why don't you stay first? Like, what kind of caught your attention? What made you keep the food down at first before deciding to
keep
the
food down at first? Because he actually liked the book.
She was fairly
not stop talking about it.
She's fairly cute. Typical.
Oh, whoa!
No,
I'm kidding.
No, no. Anyways, what held my attention for the first part was the at least what you were talking about at the end. It kind of moved out of the stereotypical, and so I was slightly intrigued at what would happen, moving from that. And so her storytelling was pretty crappy, but I was able to look past that and see the ideas, and I enjoyed the ideas for the most part. And so the ideas kind of kept me within the series until they became redundant.
Okay, fair. I mean, this is a long series, and it's not many series that can go on without just being redundant and kind of exploring the same things. So that's a flaw that many series face. It's not unique here, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, Isaiah, what about you?
So I also went into reading the book without basically any expectations, because Becky just finished it and didn't tell me much about it. Yeah. And I mean, she said she liked it, but it's also my younger sister.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was bored, didn't have anything to read, so I was like, well, might as well read it, see how the first book is. So yeah, I thought it was a good book. It was entertaining. Like I said, some of the stuff with writing style and all that wasn't the best. Like what you said, how the beginning plot was the beginning half was basically the same as any other book in that genre. But I still thought it was a good and entertaining book, and I think it gets better, at least in the next few books. Near the end, though, it does kind of just get redundant. Yeah. But I still thought it was a good book, and I mean, I would recommend it to someone who didn't really have much to read. If you have a better book to read, like Harry Potter or stuff like that, definitely read those instead. Yeah.
I think that's the takeaway. Maybe just say it right here. If you have something else to read, please read. Please read.
Well, it depends on what the something else is.
You're right. But I really do think that this is kind of, I would actually, for Patreon, let's plug Patreon here. A couple of months ago, I wrote this kind of thing where I looked at all the books on my bookshelf and kind of put them into tiers and rank them. and it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing it. But in one of the tiers, just kind of like, this is a good, if you have someone who is reading a lot, and they're younger, like I was, I'm sure like all of us were, like we're just devouring books and our parents don't know what to do, then, okay, give them this book. It's not necessarily the highest of literature, but it's going to be the ones that are like good fillers, you know? And
Mhm.
so I would kind of place it kind of in that tier, basically. Like, this is a good filler book. You're kind of desperate for reading, like Tanner and Isaiah were talking about. And this is not, nothing in here is going to damage you. I think that as long as you understand this is not peak literature, please don't like treat it like that, then I think it's fine. I'll be honest. Like, I did not hate this book with a passion. I'm not going to say don't read this book, it's utter garbage. But at the same time, I think there are lots of other things that are better out there. But I understand the situation in which someone might read this and even find something beneficial in it. So there's that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else kind of broad before we talk about specific elements of the book? Okay. Well,
Here,
what do
I'll
you guys...
clarify. I don't
Oh.
necessarily hate it, and I wouldn't like not recommend it to somebody. I would just not do over what I have done, if that makes sense.
I think me and Isaiah are both on your side here because I don't think we would recommend reading this series in 2.5 weeks, to be honest.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Anyway.
could if you really wanted to, but that's fast.
Yeah.
Anyways,
dude.
just stating that my obsession does not stand anymore.
Yeah.
It's like a bad taste in my mouth.
Okay. Well, I think it's more than that. If you were puking, you said, so I don't know. It's kind of like a raw throat.
I don't know.
Okay.
It remains
Let's grab the metaphor. We're done with the metaphor at this point. Let's talk about the world building of this book because of the series. I'm not going to read the rest of the series, but Isaiah and Tanner have, so they can speak to this a bit more than I can. But I think world building is an important aspect of this kind of book because it's a book that relies heavily on kind of the world that the author has built, the customs, and how the characters interact with those things. So how do you guys feel about the world building and Keep of the Lost Cities as a whole? How unique is it? How cool is it? How fun is it? Would you want to live inside it? That kind of thing, you know?
Here, really quickly, I just looked up on average how many words there are in each book for Keeper of Lost Cities and how long it would take it. It says for a fast reader, it'd take about 8.5 hours to read one book.
8.5?
One book.
Yeah.
And that in about one book on average, there's about 148,800 words, which means Tanner read about 1,264,800 words in a week, in 2 weeks.
That's pretty insane right there. Look at that.
How'd you read
that's
that,
almost the same way that I finished Dune in less than a week.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. Like these books, like I think at least my copy at least, has pretty big font. The pages aren't like packed tight. So
That's
like the
true, but
500
they're
pages
still,
is a
like-
bit of a misnomer, but they're still pretty big. Yeah. By the way, my edition has like little annotations from the author.
Cooper. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. But Cooper,
Yeah.
the first book is like one of the smallest books. You know that, right?
Yeah, okay, I guess that's true. I was wondering
The
about
biggest
that. So,
one
I'm
is
pretty sure this book is,
1,000
like,
something
only-
pages.
Oh, dude. Okay. Huh.
Which one
What
was
is
that even?
I think that was book 6, right?
That sounds right.
I forgot
Anyways,
the name of it.
my thoughts on the world building, pulling us back on track.
Yes.
I think that it's interesting. I think that it's what kept me in the series for as long as it
Mhm.
did. I think that as a whole, it relies way too much on like stereotypical like fantasy worlds,
Uh-huh.
sci-fi worlds. Like it uses all of those as like a significant crutch. Like there's not many ideas that you hear of that you haven't heard of or read of in other
Mhm.
places.
Mhm.
And so for that reason, like it feels like they've just created this medley of just like a bunch of interesting
Mythologies,
things.
even.
Yeah, mythologies, and just like threw them into something and said, "This is going to be great." Right?
Yeah.
Like this melting pot is going to work.
right. Throw it in
But
a
like
stir-fry.
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. But it doesn't feel flavorful. Is like my point,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel tasteful. It doesn't feel creative. It just feels like these are a lot of ideas that everybody loves. Let's throw them together. It will work.
Yeah.
It's just overall it's a letdown. as a whole, the interaction from the characters with the world is pretty good. Like I feel like the way that they interact with the world definitely drives it on, but I don't think that it's anything to rival. Like even like there are a couple of books that I've been reading like that are not classy literature, but they're just like, I don't know, they just have better world building for some reason like than this. It just feels so haphazard, and this felt like a good idea, so I threw it in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah?
Yeah, I would have to agree with what he says. I thought it was good in that it kind of helped with the story to make it entertaining. And that they did it well, but yeah, it's basically like a stereotypical type thing. But I still liked it. I mean,
Yeah.
just because it's stereotypical doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think that kind of what Tanner said is true. Like, she cobbled together a bunch of different worlds. I mean, the whole idea of elves, and I mean, is Atlantis in here? I forget. It is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Atlantis,
like
different
every single city that's supposed to not exist exists.
Right.
In
Like
this one, they were just
Shangri-La,
hidden by
like-
the elves.
Yeah, like literally everything exists.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Every mythology exists. It's so weird.
Yeah. And so, as Tanner said, like it's thrown all together and it's mixed up, and the result is not something that is extremely flavorful. But like Isaiah pointed out, it's obviously an engaging enough world to where like I didn't actively hate it, and thousands of people have read it, and I've read the whole series, because of the world. So I acknowledge that there is something here. I don't think that she does a very, very effective job at blending all these things together. Maybe people just haven't read enough like other worlds that have this kind of thing. But I've read, like, guys, I seriously think I've read 6 or 7 series that have half of the elements in this book.
Yeah.
Like, I could, like, sit here and name you 5 or 6 right now that have
So
Atlantis,
true.
that have these creatures, that have this, and so that kind of led to just more of a bland thing. Like, there's nothing really super interesting or unique necessarily about this world that just makes it breathe on its own. Like, honestly, it felt like I was watching, I mean, I don't know, like, maybe it's too extreme metaphor, but, like, I just didn't feel like this world was breathing or alive. It felt like it felt, like when you're watching a fantasy show, it either works or it doesn't. Like, it's either really cool, and the costumes and the really, like, gothic imagery, sometimes it either works or it doesn't. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're watching a cool world. Sometimes you're watching people with bad elf ears talking in accents for no reason, and on that spectrum, it kind of leaned more towards this isn't really working. I can kind of see through this thing. It didn't feel like a real world that I want to go and live in. Unlike Harry Potter, which has a lot of pretty cool elements, it does blend together a lot of things. Like nothing like completely new in Harry Potter, but it does it in an interesting, engaging way to where the world is a world that you want to live in. And it's a breathing world, whereas this world is just not. Like, seriously. So I didn't really know what was going to happen in this book at all. And then when I realized that the majority of this book was going to take place inside a school for kids, a magic school, I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
all right.
who?
I'm telling you, the next ones do get a bit better where they're not just always at Fox Fair.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
fair.
they do move away from that pretty fast.
They become much more action-packed in that sense. I think 2 or 3 of the books, like school is just canceled throughout the whole thing, so there isn't school.
Ah, great. Cool. By the way, can we just talk about the fact that they call the students prodigies? Like, is
Yeah,
that
I
not
know.
a little?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Like, seriously? Also, how do people pay? Like, what's their society? They each get.
They don't
what,
pay.
Like,
They don't
They
pay.
don't pay.
They get like
Remember,
free
they said
money,
they
though,
work
don't they?
because they want
Like,
to work, and everyone
yeah.
instantly has 5 million of whatever their currency is, which is each $1 in their currency is worth about 1 billion in American money.
That's like
So
insane.
they are
Like,
basically
how does that
uber
society
rich,
function?
and they work because they want to work, because they have
This sounds
indefinite lifespan, so they're not just going to sit around doing nothing the whole time.
Right, but that sounds like socialism if people actually worked, which, like, I'm not sure if
But I mean,
that
if you had like an
actually-
indefinite lifespan, people kind of figure out stuff to keep themselves occupied,
Yeah,
so
I
they
just
do
feel
what
like
they
that was
want to
glazed
do.
over really fast, though. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It doesn't.
It's not like-
It doesn't work, Cooper. Like it. Once
I'm
again,
just explaining
you
how the
can't- you
book
can see
explains
Yeah,
through
yeah,
it
yeah,
so
I know, yeah.
you can see through it so fast.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyways, but what was I going to say? I had a thought.
Man.
Oh, the way that like their entire society is like built up, and the way that like their world like operates, it just feels so fake. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's something about I'm not coming up with it right. I'm trying to think of like that. I don't know. Oh, the name's not coming to me. But just like the places that have like these hidden societies that have like these hierarchies. Oh, Andy Wilson Cooper.
Uh-huh. Oh, Notes from the Tilted World?
No, the other one. His
other
fiction.
one? Oh,
his fiction.
Ashtown?
Ashtown, yes. Thank you. I was dying. I couldn't think of it. Like Ashtown Burials, like that book series just has like such a believable hierarchy. You're like, this exists, right?
It does.
It exists somewhere because it has to exist. It's too well thought through, right?
Right.
Like the way that their society works in this book, it just doesn't. It feels so fake, right? Like there's no actual hierarchy of powers. It feels like anybody can just move up and down whenever they want to. People can just like float and do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it, as long as nobody knows. It just feels so fake. It doesn't feel like there's an actual structure to it. It feels like it should just like collapse at any moment.
Isn't that the whole plot of the book series, Tanner? That the Never Seen are exploiting that and making it collapse?
Hey, yo. What?
I guess to some extent. Anyways, Cooper, you haven't gotten to that. I guess to some extent,
no,
but like
find that
even
on the next book, technically.
But even still, like those hierarchies still feel fake.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's the whole reason the Black Swan Never Seen were created, though, because they realized there were flaws in that system.
Okay, fine. I retract my statement. Isaiah is correct.
Let me just kind of sum up what we've said. I think we all agree that these things work because like these things individually are flavors that have worked in the past, evidenced by how many people have used them. But just here, like there's nothing new or unique to kind of make it spark. I guess that's kind of what it was missing for me. Just kind of like uniqueness that makes it feel real and believable. It was totally fine. It was passable, but it was just like meh. So
the only reason it works is because we have like now you have a base. Now you have an audience base, right? And so now you've got an audience base that like reads this as their like this is the one true thing that has elves and all of these things in it, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like,
and so,
how did this get through? How many people read this when it's like a ripoff of everything that's come before it? It's true. It's like
I guess
okay,
it's
how
just
many people have read Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
and seen this. You know, I've read the Ancient Myths.
It has the big. I guess the reason why it works for most people is because it has a magnet now, right? You've got your popularity magnet, and this is their first introduction to the quote-unquote greatness of mythology. And so now you've got all these people that are like, ooh, mythology's pretty cool. So now I'm going to like go read Percy Jackson and all this. And now they're getting introduced to all of these other things. But now they feel like they have to stick to this because this was their introduction into the greatness of, once again, quote-unquote mythology.
Right. I feel you on that case. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, I think that's probably how people latched on. It's just, okay, this is my introduction to these kind of things. So it works. By the way, I don't think the world is really the main reason that people get involved in the book. It's enough, but also it's like the plot. It's she's like I said, the author is at least somewhat decent and kind
it's
of
the
having thinly veiled or like having things veiled and then revealed as you go on, and that's kind of makes you keep turning the pages.
Here's my personal like thought for why people actually stay hooked. It is because the main character was so relatable in the beginning. You're like, you could almost be her, like in the beginning. Just like ignore telepathy, right? She's just like this normal nerd,
every
right?
other thing.
Hey, Isaiah, quiet.
I mean,
like she's normal and relatable until all of a sudden she's whisked away into this magical paradise where vegetables taste like meat, and like they're able to. All of a sudden, she's now this overpowered superhero that has more powers than literally anybody else in their entire society. With the with the notable exemption of one, but we don't talk about him.
Yeah, well, that
Alright,
one
well, I mean,
maybe,
it's-
maybe not. We don't know.
It's just the thing that Harry Potter does too. It makes you want you feel like you relate to Harry Potter, and then you want to become Harry Potter. It's wish fulfillment. So it's the same thing here. You're right.
Yeah, except she becomes so overpowered it's no longer believable.
I still don't know why she loses. Like,
Okay,
how she loses any fights.
Okay, guys, we're moving into the final portion of this, where me and Isaiah are going to tell Cooper why the entire series as a whole does not hold up and why it's so redundant. Are we ready?
I mean, go ahead. You start then, I guess.
Here's my thought, okay? We have literally 9 books. Like 8.5.
8.5, but yes.
We could call 10. So we have like 9.5 books, okay? Giving like that little weird section that we had. All of a sudden, every book becomes this overpowered superhero girl power that literally cannot win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Cannot win. We
They
literally
even say it
have
in the book that they just keep losing over and over and over again and never actually win.
we have 5 years. It's like 5. It's 4 or 5 years, right?
Something like that. I think
It's
it's more
something
like
okay, fine. 3. We have about 3 years of her life in which she literally continues to lose and lose and lose and lose.
or when they
and
think it's a
lose.
win, it's actually not, and they're being
It's
tricked.
actually a loss. Yes. So eventually we get to where me and Isaiah are in the series at the very end. And we're left with a big decision. All of a sudden the main character realizes that she cannot win and gets really mad. And all of a sudden she's winning. How?
Yeah.
We don't know. She just started winning because
she started becoming
that
like
she was
the enemy. But yeah.
Oh yes, because she's becoming evil now, and we are okay with this. She's becoming ruthless and is killing people.
Well, she... sort of.
Yes.
But she's actually
Yes.
using her powers now instead of just being scared.
Fair. Now, we're at the very end of the series, where, like, we're at what's supposed to be one of the final books of the series, where we are at this place which is supposed to be unfindable, and we found a person that is not supposed to exist and it has been erased from all memories. What happens? We don't know.
You
because
hear his
she
name,
cuts
and
off.
then it just ends.
And the book series ends at that point, and we are left with the expectation of another book in a year and a half.
Yeah.
This is why I do not like this series.
Well, if you're done ranting, Tanner, I want to talk about the characters a little bit more.
Go ahead. That
I
was
guess-
spoilers, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I
that wasn't too bad, but yeah.
I think that it's really hard for a fantasy world where the author is at least somewhat competent to have bad side characters. And this is really no exception. I mean, there are a couple of pretty fun side characters, like
Keith.
what's his face? Keith is pretty fun.
He gets
the
better.
Doctor.
He gets way better.
Keith becomes no longer a side character and becomes ultimate main character. Like
He really
painfully.
does. Not just that, but
Cool.
in 8.5, it's from his perspective.
That's cool.
So
Well,
he basically
I think he was
becomes
my
the main-
second favorite
one of
side character. The Doctor
I mean,
dude,
he was-
whatever his name was, is a pretty fun
Yes,
character.
Elwyn.
Yes, he's a pretty fun guy.
Everyone
And then there
agrees
are,
we
like,
hate
some fun-
Fitz.
Yeah, I mean, he's the kind of guy who's gonna win the love triangle, but nobody wants him to win.
Well, See, he does, but then he doesn't.
Oh, okay.
It's so funny.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, then there's just some like arbitrary school drama, which even J.K. Rowling, for all like that kind of stuff, is the least believable stuff in Harry Potter. Is like the spats
hmm
that they have, and that stuff's worse in this book. But other than that, the side characters are pretty fun. Her relationship with what's her name, Grady and Eldeline, right? Her adopted parents, at least in the first book.
hmm
That's pretty good and emotional stuff. So, yeah, I think overall the characters are okay. Like I said, Sophie's just kind of a bland, wish fulfillment-y character, but that's okay. It's kind of what she's supposed to be. So,
But I'm
Works
just
fine.
saying, Keith gets absolutely way better, especially when Ro comes in.
okay. Well, I'm
Keith
not going
is
to read it,
honestly
but I'll
the
take your word
reason
for
that
it.
I would. The Keith is honestly the reason that I would finish the series at this point.
Same. I mean, especially with what happened to him. But yeah.
Okay, here's what I'll say about the character arcs throughout the entire series. everybody else is just a character arc loop. There's no
Uh-huh.
changing. There's no morphing into a becoming. They
Except
just
Keith.
are. Except Keith. Keith has the most amazing character arc ever, and it
Seriously.
progressively gets better, honestly. He starts like risking his life to save his friends, and like all of this stuff, like it's
But
very
he
hard.
never
Like,
loses the jokes.
this is very
And
true.
his sense of
until
humor.
he
Well,
actually does lose his jokes. his
That's
sense
a
of
good
humor.
point. Well, I mean, he more like loses his what is it? Feelings.
Humanity.
Like he just can't feel.
Huh.
Like he becomes
Dude,
numb.
Wow. That's tough.
Yes. Anyways, he has a very, very, very interesting character arc that I would like to see all the way through at this point. But
I mean,
as far as all the other
yeah.
character goes, like they're just bland, and they
Well, I mean, Fitz kind of becomes almost ruthless.
that
Murderous.
is true. You
Almost.
slowly come to hate Fitz more and more.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well, speaking of just the kind of the plot with kind of involved in character arcs, I feel like the climax for me just came way too soon and was way too short. I don't know. Like, I was
That's
kind
true.
of plodding through school stuff and, oh, midterms, oh no, finals, oh no. And then wham, wham. Knowledge, knowledge,
Yeah.
knowledge. Fight, fight. Kidnap, kidnap.
Like I said, it does
Oh,
get
we're done.
better.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. But
It feels like every book, though. It feels like every one of the books that it does
Yeah.
that, though.
I mean, you need to, like, I understand
guess.
the first book, you need to set up everything, set up the, all the settings, all the characters, the conflict, and then you got to have kind of a climax that, honestly, is the climax of the first book in a series ever the best? I understand that, but I mean, it is still a fair criticism to make, I think. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, let's kind of wrap up here. Any final thoughts?
Read if you are starving, but do not read unhealthily.
Isaiah?
Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of said everything I wish to say.
Fair. Well, I think that we talked about the writing not being the best. Like, it's perfectly passable. It's fine. Like, it's not trash or garbage by any means. Like, I honestly do have respect for anybody who can finish a novel and it remains somewhat competent. Like, I really do. Like, having tried to write a novel of my own. So, absolutely, it functions. Like I said, it's good filler. It's not going to damage your soul by any means if you read it. But like we've said, I think all the criticisms we've made are fair. But, just take that into account. And if you can, find something else. But the writing it's not terrible. It's fine. It's passable. It'll work. But I think there are better meals out there. But hey, we all have McDonald's every now and then, and that's perfectly okay. So let's do some donor shoutouts. Tanner, tell the folks where to go for a donor shoutout.
To get a donor shoutout, you can go to patreon.com/bookinit and donate to any of our $5 and up tiers.
Yep.
Okay, well, I don't remember how many lost cities there are, but I'm going to say a patron, and then you tell me a lost city that they would live in,
Jeez.
okay? You can
Bro, I
repeat
only
if you
know,
need
like-
to. You can repeat.
Hold on, give me like 20 seconds.
Okay.
I remember
we
none
can,
of them.
We can do a different thing here. We can just say if they're an elf or a human, I guess, or if they'd be part of Black Swan or not. I don't know. What do you guys want to do here?
Elf or human?
Oh, you do?
Elf or human?
Oh, okay, fine. Elf or human. I just walked over there to grab a bouquet.
Oh, well. Okay. Well, I'll say the patron. You guys say if they're an elf or a human. Here we go. Nana.
Elf.
Van Pappy and Wayla.
Elf.
Mike and Sylvia.
Human.
Mike and Laura.
Human.
Make some passion into these voices, guys. Come on. Anna.
Elf.
Emily.
Human.
Becky.
Human.
Lizzie.
Elf.
Keenan.
Elf for sure.
Well, I think that we take way too long. Like, in between, like, me saying things, like, 4 seconds. And that's, like, it's... I guess, I think, really, the real answer for that is we really want to tread lightly when naming our patrons as one thing or another, and then they want to make sure they get it right. So that's why they take so long in deciding, because
That or there's
this is
just a
true.
delay.
yeah, it's true. That's true. All right, well, guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you thought we were fair. I know a lot of people kind of like this series, so hope you think that we were fair and honest in our critiques. If you didn't like it, don't leave a 1-star rating and review, please. We beg you. Please leave a 5-star rating and review, because that helps us out a lot. Hey, truly, whenever we get a review, it makes our week. It really does. It really does. So thank you guys who have left a review already. Appreciate those who are going to leave a review now. That's what I wanted to say. Make sure to check out Patreon, support us, look at cool bonus content, get donor shout out there. We'll see you next time with, is it Nope, it's not Hamlet. It's not, but we'll see you next time. Until then,
Keep on booking it.